Okay, so it's a while since I've made a video like this. I've just come back from my 4 weeks gallivanting around the UK. And in this video, what I'd like to share is my 4 weeks away and my four main lessons that I learned from it. So for the first half of this video, I plan to share a bit more honesty and truth around why I even felt the need to go away. Because let's face it, it's kind of out of character for me to just kind of up sticks and gallivant off for 4 weeks with about 7 hours preparation. And I want to share some major takeaways that I hope will help other people regarding any other situations that they might be in themselves. So first of all, I came into 2024 with the full knowledge that this was going to be a year of self-development for me. It wasn't about growing my business. It wasn't about earning more money. It was simply to get through the year with my sanity intact and survive some what I knew was going to be some very difficult periods of time. Now, things started getting a little bit hairy at the end of 2023 when I had four bereavements in the space of 4 months. And that was obviously a very difficult period because not only was I grieving, I was also helping other people and there was lots of traveling back around. Now, obviously, that wasn't part of the plan and it certainly didn't help. But it was a period of time that we just had to kind of navigate our way through with the best we could in the circumstances that we were in. But in all honesty, there is something else that has been bubbling around in my life for a very long period of time. It's been bubbling around for 5 years, in fact, behind the scenes. I knew at the beginning of this year that I basically had to kind of ring fence the energy that I had and ring fence that for my business and to be completely undividedly attentive to my clients and the effort that it takes to run a business. But everything outside of that, I knew was probably going to have to take some form of compromise. And I'm talking my roller derby, my hobbies, the projects that I'm involved in, seeing friends, all the stuff that normally come with the day to day. Because when this thing is in full swing, it takes an unprecedented amount of my time, consumes my energy, and demands my undivided attention. So there was just no way I was going to have a normal year with this thing bubbling around in the background. Now, I would love to be absolutely 100% transparent about everything. I would love to be able to say, this is it, this is what's been going on, but I can't. Not because I don't want to, because I simply can't. My hands are kind of tired. And in all honesty, I'm not willing to say any more than I have because I'm not willing to risk compromising anything that's going on behind the scenes. And although I can't say any more about this situation, to add some context, as and when I ever tell anybody about this, I kind of get a fairly standard reaction, which is, holy shit. And that's typically what people say when I tell them about what's going on. But what I can say with absolute certainty is I've done a lot of work in my background. I spent years in self-development, but I can confidently say nothing has stretched me as much as this, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and to a degree, physically as well. Just to be clear, this isn't some pity party or some sob story. The last thing I want on this is sympathy. In fact, I go as far as saying sympathy actually repels me. I'm good at giving it to other people. It felt like I had to show a little bit more context to why I even had this experience in the first instance. So I came into the beginning of this year knowing that it was going to take an unbelievable amount of my time and energy. And basically, there was a lot of work and time that had gone into something that basically I was of the understanding and hoping at least that this thing was going to be gone out of my life. One way or another, it was going to be gone. And in a nutshell, I basically got a phone call that effectively just said, nah, not today. And one of the hardest things about that is, quite frankly, that I now have absolutely no idea when it's going to be gone. It could be next year, could be the year after, could be the year after that. It's absolutely in the lap of the gods. I have literally no control over it. So when I got that phone call, I openly admit it knocked me sideways. And the reason it knocked me sideways is because I had become absolutely attached, visualizing a future around what my life would look like when this thing wasn't there, which kind of leads me into the lessons that I want to share. The first one being around attachment. Now, where I left myself very vulnerable, which came up in a session with my own coach, was the fact that I had attached to this thing being gone. And actually, that's something that I have absolutely no control over. So when my attachment was to that, was then taken away, it left me falling from a much higher height. So I know a lot of people at the moment that are going through something completely different to me. Nothing similar whatsoever, but they are in a similar situation in the sense that they have something on a long-term basis that they have to contend with that they simply don't have any control over. I've got friends who are ill at the moment, some people seriously ill, and they may be waiting for surgery, or they don't know when they're going to get better again. I've got other people that are going, I actually know about 4 couples at the moment that are going through the court system for custody of the children. And then I know other people that maybe just they've already gone through something like a separation, and now they've just got this endless toxic ex-partner that just will not stop making their life a misery. How long do these things have to stay in our lives for? So although those are completely random situations, completely different to my own, but the similarity is on the basis that if any of those people, or if you're going through something that you have no control over and it's long and it's years in your life and you want nothing more than it to be gone, attaching to it being gone is going to leave you very vulnerable, and it kind of becomes your jugular. So one thing that came out from my own coach is, rather than attaching to this thing being gone, attach to the endurance, attach to something that actually, whatever it takes and however long it takes, I'm okay with that, because that ends up being something that you do have control over. And although it might not necessarily make the situation any more comforting, it certainly provides some form of control, and in turn, the way you think about it, and in turn, the way that you feel about it. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to. Nor am I trying to say in any of this that if anybody's going through something different to me, that our experiences are the same and our feelings are the same. I'm not saying that. And reframing that mindset to something around endurance is much more likely to offer some increased control on the situation that you're in. So the second lesson I want to share is on the topic of vulnerability and the dilemma around when and how do we choose to share something of great vulnerability. But I'm a firm believer that we don't do this enough. We spend too much time blasting our way through really difficult periods of a life and just trying to pretend to the outside world that we were completely unaffected by it. And let's face it, the only reason why people don't say something when it comes to vulnerability is the fear of being shamed and judged by other people. I was in two minds if to make this video, but when it comes to vulnerability, in my opinion, there's 2 types of vulnerability. There's needy vulnerability, which is when somebody goes through a shitstorm or something, but they're just a crumbling mess. If that is something you're experiencing, I do recommend that you seek professional help with people that are qualified to help in that particular situation. And then I also believe there's what's called confident vulnerability, which is when somebody effectively completely owns it. This thing has happened. It's absolutely grim. Yes, it knocked me sideways. Bear with me a little bit in that process until I find myself regrounded and rebalanced. But if you believe that you have to get through them without these things affecting you, that's where the damage happens. Third lesson was more an observation and quite intriguing, actually. But when I did make my announcement that I was going gallivanting off for 4 weeks in my camper van or whatever, I got a number of different types of emails. I got some people saying that was inspiring. I had other people saying, go get them. Had other people saying, I wish I could do the same thing. But then I had a couple of types of people that were saying things like, what are you running away from? Or I thought you were a coach and these things don't happen to you. Okay, first and foremost, let me make it very clear. When you have a title or you've got a particular career, this does not make you become a robot. Even Tony Robbins can be knocked sideways if the news that you got was big enough to do so. When I hear comments like that, which to me are quite fueled in judgment, coupled with things like, what are you running away from? It's one of those classic things that people are making judgment and passing comment on other people's lives where they literally know nothing about what is going on. And in my mind, when you've run, say, 4 or 5 marathons back to back, you're kind of ready for a rest, and that becomes also okay. So I guess my message here is that I wasn't particularly affected by those emails. I've done more than enough work to be resilient to things like that. But that doesn't mean that everybody will be unaffected by it. So just bear in mind that when you're saying things like this, whether it's in a message, an email, a comment to somebody, just be mindful that you might not have a freaking clue what that other person is going through. As my fourth and final lesson, something I stand by with so much rigidity is living by your values. Now, in this situation alone, it absolutely saved my ass. So knowing that my values are honesty, so making this video is honest, integrity, I feel like I owe it to myself to explain a little bit of context, and I owe it to other people around watching this and understanding some more around what was actually going on behind the scenes. Now, one of my biggest values is also freedom. So knowing that I absolutely love freedom, just gallivanting around the UK in my van was going to obviously surge that energy and fuel me in that way. And fun and adventure is another value of mine. Now, obviously, I know that I need to be in nature because it grounds me the most. It's where I feel most at home. Now, I'm not giving the message here that I recommend that everybody, if they've had a difficult time, that they should go out and buy a camper van and go gallivanting around the UK. I mean, if that floats your boat, crack on, because I think it's great. But that isn't what I'm saying here. Everybody has values. So whether that's your cup of tea or not, there's going to be something that you can do. And when you're going through a difficult time, you can double down on those values. You can do more of them. In my case, it was gallivanting around, but in your case, maybe it was simply spending time with different people, having different conversations with different people, getting yourself in flow for one of your hobbies. Whatever it is, there's something that you can always do to rebalance yourself, because everybody at some point goes through these horrible periods of their life. So that's pretty much the end of my 4 lessons in 4 weeks traveling. And as I always say, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to get all future content, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Cheers.